Welcome to The Concept, Volume 1. I'm Dillon, CMO and co-founder of Concept Move. This is
Lucas Zelazny, co-founder and CEO of Concept Move.
Today we're going to be answering some questions from our clients and random send-ins. So one of our first questions today is, if you form a summertime habit of going for a walk every day, how do you keep the habit going through the winter? In Vermont, it is so easy to fall off the wagon as the seasons change.
I would say the most important component of a question like that, let's say you form the habit of going for a run on a daily basis through the summertime months, is having a set plan in place before the weather changes. Either that or continuing to run through the conditions. There is nothing wrong with running in the snow, it's just less pleasant. I'm not a huge fan of treadmills. I don't think they're particularly well designed for joints. So the more natural surfaces that you can run on, the better. But I would say activity modification. So you should find a few different activities that you enjoy doing through trial and error. So whether that be running, hiking, swimming, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, whatever it is that's going to keep you active, and then you have those sports to transition to as the seasons change. I would say that that's the most effective way to stay active, and you shouldn't be in the habit of running, you should be in the habit of being active. So whatever allows you to do that best through the different seasons.
What do you recommend? Like, what's the greatest indoor cardio? If you're looking for cardio, what's the greatest equipment to use? Like, what's the best equipment to use?
I mean, it totally depends on one, personal preference, whether or not you have joint issues, and really those are the two major things. Treadmills, because they're on a track like that, you're not really running through them, so they're actually like pulling your leg back. And there's been a significant amount of research done that suggests it's not the best thing for your hips. And then the other component of it is you're essentially running on concrete, which is not good for your joints. They have those new 0G treadmills, and I'm not sure, they're like curved. And those curved treadmills, actually, you're the one that's propelling them, so they go as fast as you can actually run. And because of the curvature, they actually reduce the amount of impact on your joints. So I would definitely recommend those. I prefer biking. I have a lot of knee issues, so anything that I can do that's low impact, those assault bikes that get your arms and legs going at the same time are awesome. If you are a big runner, I wouldn't suggest getting too involved in the world of ellipticals. They aren't a particularly natural gait pattern, but if you're just using them as a form of effective calorie burn and you have joint problems, they are really effective for kind of replicating the motion of running and burning calories. And swimming. Swimming is sweet.
Swimming's really good. Rowing?
Rowing, yep, love rowing machines. I forgot about those. I think the big benefit of rowing machines is just the positioning of them. You're essentially in like a recumbent bike position, and you totally control like how far. They're not like a fixed motion machine, so you control how far you want to go through the movements. And one of my key rules for progressions is partial range before full range. So if you have any type of orthopedic ailments that prevent you from going into deep knee flexion, or you have ankle issues or shoulder issues or whatever, it'll allow you to lighten that load but still get a quality workout in.
Are rowing machines allowed, because you have knee injuries, what's better for you? Does it matter, rowing versus biking?
Biking would be best for me, biking and swimming. Running's no good. Ellipticals are okay. Rowing machines are fine as long as I'm not going into super deep knee flexion. But on the pull back, you're not really like the eccentric phase, I guess, of a rowing machine. It's very passive flexion. The problem with it is when I get into that deep flexion pattern, because I have arthritis and articular cartilage and meniscus damage, pushing out of the deep flexion position is not very different from doing like a deep squat. It's less resistance because I'm not pushing my full body weight and I'm not under like load behind me. But the repetitive nature of it, I mean, if I did like 1,000-meter row, it would be like I was doing like 500 air squats, which wouldn't be particularly good for me.
Or really anybody.
So I would just like stop myself once I got to 90 degrees and push back out of it. I have monkey arms, so it allows me to go super far.
Monkey arm. What's a monkey arm?
I just have a really broad wingspan, man. Yeah, so
I've never actually heard that term.
It's way longer than my height. That's why I'm so good at deadlifting.
Is that why I'm so bad?
That and your hamstring.
Yeah. Anyways, next question. Here we go. How do you break a sugar consumption habit?
Just don't be a pussy.
Just straight up, it's all in your head. It's really like.
No, the best way I would suggest people breaking habits in that capacity, if you do have a sugar habit, is one, situational awareness and avoidance. So don't go to the grocery store when you're craving sugary foods. And when you're at the grocery store, don't stock your fridge or cabinets with sugary foods. I'm a big advocate of meal prepping and meal planning. All of our clients here use an application called MyFitnessPal, and we encourage them to put their grocery lists into MyFitnessPal and calculate the portions like in the week in advance. So like every Sunday, they'll kind of sit down, get their grocery list together with their food items, put it all in, portion it out. That way they have a plan to stick to. People get into trouble when there is no plan. And you say sugar habits like include simple carbohydrates. So eating a ton of fruit or white bread or non-whole grain items, highly processed stuff with high fructose corn syrup. There's a bunch of different things to kind of look out for, and we can delve deeper into those questions in a later episode. But the best thing that you can do is plan and then not go like 0 to 100 miles an hour. So if you know that you're addicted to sugar, you create a plan where you say, okay, instead of eating an entire muffin every morning or a whole bagel or cookies every single night, like I'm gonna cut that in half this week. And then the next week when you make your plan, you cut it down into a quarter, and then the next week after that, you do a quarter every day, and Fridays or Tuesdays or whatever is the only day that you won't be allowed to have it. And then the next week, like Tuesdays and Wednesdays, you're not allowed to have it. And then eventually you just build that system. It takes up to 66 days to break and rebuild habits, which is why like our commitment programs are so important. So anything that we're doing here, ideally we see you for 90 days and we give you the tools to be successful long term. Because if you just try to commit to something, or like that's why the New Year's resolutioners don't really like have a ton of success on their own, because you only have so much willpower. Like willpower is not like on reserve. So like you're super motivated, the year changes everything, but you haven't ultimately changed.
And then comes February.
And then February comes and everyone's like, oh yeah, I haven't been to the gym in 2 weeks and my diet's done. Like I think people have these negative views of dieting and weight loss and all this stuff, and it really just comes down to portion size and making sure that you're doing it successfully, and having somebody hold you accountable to that is super beneficial.
And so what are you saying? So ideally you would have no sugar in your diet, or is it's so like you want some sugar in your diet?
No, sugar is very important. It's excessive sugar. The problem is the spike that comes with quick, like fast-acting glucose. So that gets absorbed in the upper digestive tract and gets into your bloodstream very quickly. And when that gets into your bloodstream, insulin goes into your system. And those things in excessive amounts can lead to excessive fat storage. However, same thing being said, if at the end of the day, like a calorie is a calorie is a calorie. So if we are say I need to eat 2,000 calories a day to maintain my weight. If I only eat 1,900 and I consistently eat 1,900 calories a day for a year, I'm going to lose like 12 pounds. Like it's that's what it is. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter like really what's in my diet. You might not have like the best like physiological measurements if you're just eating sugar all the time. Like diabetes and all of those diseases are real diseases, but when we're talking from like a strict caloric standpoint, you will lose weight. So people run into issues when they're eating meals that are high in fat, which is the most kilocalories. So for every gram of fat, there's 9 kilocalories. For every gram of sugar, there's 4. So when you go to a restaurant and you have potatoes with a bunch of butter on them, like versus just straight potatoes, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you get into these like situations where you're just overeating, and people blame the macronutrients and the sugar and all that stuff, but ultimately it's just overconsumption of calories. You have this big meal and then you're like, oh, I'm also gonna have sugar. And then because I ate sugar, like my insulin spiked after I was already in a caloric surplus. So instead of me burning off the quick energy from the sugar, it all got stored as fat, and it's sugar's fault. When in reality, it's just portion sizes.
Makes sense. Do you have a healthy alternative to sugar that you recommend, or is there really, like
protein? Protein is the most satiating of the 3 macronutrients. Too much protein is not good for you. However, if you're on a strict weight program, or you're lifting weights and breaking down muscle tissue or running consistently and whatnot, you can have about 1 gram of protein per pound of goal body weight. So I always encourage people to increase their protein consumption. And fat is not bad for you. You just can't eat as much fat as you can like carbohydrates. You need about half the amount of like fat that you can of carbs because of the like calorie component to it.
But not all fats, and there's good fats and bad
there's good fats and bad fats, right? Which we can get into as well. And essentially, just avoiding. You want all natural fats. You don't want the bad oils, and that's what that's what all of our fried food basically goes into. Trans fats are no good. We were talking about the healthy alternatives to sugars. No, I don't think there is a particularly healthy alternative, because sugar is in of itself is not unhealthy. Mm-hmm. It's just the amount of it that we consume. So people are like, oh, don't eat fruit. It's like bad for you. But in reality, like it's all the other stuff that goes into it, and it's everything in moderation. Like I eat fruit every morning. I have blueberries and bananas and all this other stuff. But I also exercise daily, and I'm on my feet for the most of the day. And after I have my morning smoothie with all the other stuff I have in it, like it's getting burned off. Mm-hmm. The problem with it is we sit down in the morning and have a bunch of sugar, or we have a bunch of sugar before we go to bed, and that's why they're like, oh, don't eat carbs like before bed. It's because you're not, for the most part, not active before you go to sleep. So you can't burn it off.
Schedule, okay? Right. I'm a very active sleeper.
So I think that's why it gets a bad rap, but ultimately everything just comes down to portion sizes.
Makes sense. And that's why I feel like that's where a lot of people have that problem. Is they go, I can't have sugar. Today I'm stopping. Like that's.
Yeah, we read something online and we get that spike of willpower and motivation, and we're like, oh, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go to the gym.
One day,
buy all this healthy stuff. I'm gonna do this whole thing, and it's great, but that only lasts so long. Like you have to build the habits associated with it. And accountability partners are great. So doing a healthy lifestyle change with a friend or family or significant other, whoever it may be, somebody that can kind of give you a nudge in the right direction, and vice versa when that other person is struggling, is really important. But yeah, that like quick slam, like slam the brakes, I'm not doing this anymore, doesn't work in any aspect of life, and it definitely doesn't work in regard to nutrition or weightlifting. I mean, like if you get a gym membership and you go to the gym and you just bust your ass like the first 3 days and you're so sore that you can't even move, and then your knees hurt and like your back hurts because you weren't doing something right. The next week you're just like, nah, not going to the gym because the gym broke me.
The gym
and
broke
it's
me.
like same thing, like, oh, I'm not doing this. Like, oh God, that sweet potato tastes like trash, and I am gonna eat this cookie now. So it's just like, it's all a balance. There's nothing wrong with cookies and those things. You just gotta manage them right.
I thought there's a lot wrong with too many cookies.
Yeah.
So basically, sugar is almost every aspect of your life. Just don't cut it out immediately. Don't slam brakes. You know, you got everything in moderation. I mean, you can say that for fitness too. I mean, you can't, like you said, you can't come in here and.
No, everything's got to have like a scale to it. I like to call it the stair-stepper approach. So when people first come in, I'm like, I just want you to get into the habit of tracking your food. I don't want you to change anything. You just do what you're doing. And then after that 1 to 2 week period, we sit down and we look through all of the food items that you're having. And I'll literally go through like one meal at a time. And a lot of people don't even realize like that they're doing it. The thing that tracking your food and stuff does for people is that it keeps you accountable to like the number. So if it's 2,000 calories and you need to stay under that, like, and you're tracking it consistently throughout the day, it'll say how much you have left. And if you have that plan in place of like, oh, okay, so I only have this much left, this is what I can eat because I'm going to put it in here. But yeah, we'll go through that, and I don't want them to change it. So it'll give us an idea of how much over their, like if they want to lose 1 pound a week, for example, they need to be in a 500 calorie deficit per day. So it gives them an opportunity to see, oh wow, I'm actually overeating by 100 or 200 calories a day of my basal metabolic rate, which is why over the past 5 years, I've gained, it's like 10 pounds or 15 pounds or whatever.
You don't wake up and you're
right.
15 pounds
Yeah,
heavier.
exactly. So we do that, and then I say, okay, this week, like, and then I don't even change anything that they're eating. I'm like, this week, I just want you to cut down your portion sizes to 3/4 of what you've been eating if they're in like a caloric surplus. So we do that, and then after we go through 1 to 2 weeks of that, then I'm like, okay, I want you to substitute your bagel in the morning for a whole wheat piece of toast. Don't change anything else. Okay, you have 5 beers every night. Let's try to have 4 this week. Or like a lot of people, the quickest thing that you can do is go to like a straight up, like take out all of your liquid diet stuff and just focus on drinking water. Because anything other than water, like if you drink a lot of juice, if you drink alcohol every night, whatever it may be, like that's just added calories that you just don't need.
They're super easy to consume. It's not like
So people, like, if you just drank water all day and then focused on your eating, like you'd be surprised how quickly you'd lose.
All right, well, first show. That's all we have today. We will be doing another one soon. Please follow us on Instagram and subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook. Don't look for Concept Mauve 3 because we got a lot of telemarketers calling us about Concept Mauve 3, and we can't even express in words how frustrating that is and how quickly we hang up when someone says Concept Mauve 3. So
if you're a prospective client,
we won't take you.
We won't even take you because I just can't.
Even if you're a long-term client, you say Concept Mauve 3, it's like.
And if I get another text message from JP Benoit asking me if I know how to spell, I'll never talk to you.
That's fine. But thank you for watching, and we hope this was useful.